And now we check in at my lodgings for some brand new news. News from home. The Echo Bazaar, that enigmatic marketplace, has increased its tax on love stories. The traitor empress has forbidden singing in the street outside her palace. The anarchists of the Calendar Council have inexplicably dynamited a drinking fountain. The Ministry of Public Decency has located and destroyed a nest of gallbladder wasps. I've lost terror and gained recent news. Might be worth a visit to the sisters. But for now, I will visit my study. The clock ticks, the gaslight wickers, shadows lie quiet. Write a will. The court of chancery, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom it may devour. Ensure it doesn't get its lion tentacles on your property when you're gone. Should you die, this will ensure that your heir retains your lodgings and any heirlooms you've accumulated. Baseborn and fowling piece. The lawyer peers at you like a vulture composed of crocodiles. Come now, she creaks. There's a few years in you yet, but your caution does you credit. Sign here. No, ink is fine. This isn't the brass embassy. You've lost 100 echoes and now have an ironclad will. Yawn, stretch, rise from your desk. Go back to the rest of the city and stock up on supplies. This is going to be a long journey, so I'm going to take a few extra precautions. Should carry me over. Now, because of this guy's wishes to get a clayman and visit the Hunter's Keep, I know that I need to go out far to the east. May take me a while, but I'm confident I can survive the voyage if I watch my fuel consumption and stock up when I need to. First, though, a quick visit to the sisters at Hunter's Keep. The parlor is empty. Where are the sisters? Well, even when the sisters aren't feeling sociable, they can be tempted out of their lair by the smell of new stories. You ask the sulphur-eyed maid to carry a few hints of your news to the sisters. Oddly enough, she comes back with a message that their headaches are cured, and you're invited to lunch. This time I'll dine with Lucy. Lucy, the middle sister, is sunny, restless, and prone to the giggles. A daft tale. Lucy leans over and whispers to you confidentially. A complex story about a butler, a pig, and an inheritance. You don't follow all the details of the plot, but somehow the pig ends up in the attic and the butler in a vicar's bed. Candles flicker, dishes enter and leave, and the wind butts gently at the window panes. By the time the plum pudding arrives, you're as cheerful as you've been in months. You've gained supplies, you've lost hunger, you've gained Stone's attention, but lost 9 times terror. And now we book it. Book it straight to the east. Through a fog bank, nonetheless. November 13th, 1888. We have entered a fog bank. Our gunners struggle to see our foe. Fed the crew. November 14th, 1888. Some sort of beetle has invaded your morsel of a ship's biscuit. It waggles its antennae impertinently. Here the wilder airs mingle with the airs of the near reaches, Demuse Gate. A baked breeze rises, the improbable scent of stone out of some distant desert. You are close to the salt lions. Fed the crew. Discovered Thornwell Croft and Shepherd's Isles. Now Field Haven. Might as well stop in for a rest. After discovering Wolf's Rift. Shepherd Isles. Sheep, lichen, standing stones. Of course, the bearded watchman tells you, there are no actual shepherds on the Shepherd Isles. Sheep are mostly illegal here. No, indeed, it's just the name of the gentleman that found the islands. Greybeard, sitting in the village square, nods solemnly. No sheep, one says, but plenty of tails. Ask us anything. Ooh, an officer. Aye. Let me guide your ship. I know all the Z, how it was, how it will be. Please, the headaches only stop when I'm working. First officer is something I already have, but I'll never turn down an opportunity for a new story. Ah, relief. Thank you. The nonsense here was a distraction for a while, but only the Z can help me now. Oh my god, the air, the air. It's clear already. Let me chart a course for you. Oh, my head, my head. Compile a port report. Oh, yes, why yes. It's been goings on. In the bleak light of false stars, surface roiling like a porridge pot, up with the roar of steam and flash of fire, three windows swing. Tentacles! And then we saw His Highness. There is rather a lot of this material. You now have a port report. Speak of the rest of the Z. Rest of the Z, the bearded watchman scoffs. Here's where you need to be. We don't talk about the rest of the Z. But a snivelling caitiff draws you aside. I got something for you, he promises. But I'll need some of that good stuff from London. A lot of that good stuff. 7 times supplies? Well, I mean, I can buy supplies. I'm good. Visage. None of them show their faces. That's because half of them are snuffers. Know what a snuffer is? The other half don't know. Anyhow, the visages take snuffer faces and make masks of their own. They can be anyone. I could be one. You could be one. You've gained 1-time strategic information, which means go to the hold, strategic information, right-click to use. Time to put the pieces together. All I can do right now is make sense of a Z story. That teasing hint. Light, in hindsight it's obvious. Light above, dark water. The settling of scores. Sailors never forget. Lucky for you. Seems like I've run out of options here. I'm gonna pick up just a few more supplies. Station 3 is some distance to the south. Scuttering and chittering in the corners of the hold. Humped shapes on the deck rail. Rats the air, emboldens vermin. Discovered Skylar's End. Discovered the Finknottle Vortex. Discovered Nuncio. Laughter from the foredeck. Discovered McMaster's Haven. Nuncio, do not return, sender. Taciturn functionaries walk the docks in the uniforms of postmen. An enormous crowned statue casts a chilling shadow. The shadow gleams with rats' eyes. Their ceaseless chittering rolls like the tide. Assemble a port report. You may not be very familiar with the locals yet, but you can provide a preliminary overview. There's the statue in the middle of the island. That's hard to miss. There's the way everyone wears a uniform, and the way they all call each other by their ranks in the postal service. There's the way the port authorities refer to regulations. There's the jargon, the curious habit of referring to any used-up thing as cancelled, as though the whole world were made of stamps. You write about vestigial bureaucracy, and about trappings of order retained far from home. Explore along the beach. There's a long stretch of shale dotted with washed-up kegs and barrels of smaller flotsam. Shifty going, the rocks slip and slither underfoot, but you keep your balance. Every lap of the wave drags up some new letter or parcel. The face of the water is dotted with them, as far as you can see in this blackness, carried by a powerful current. I do happen to have a Ratus Faber to look at the ticking parcel. Safer it than you. Deadline. Your assistant gets into the parcel with a certain excitable gleam in its eyes. Paper and layers of wadded cotton fly everywhere. Within is an elegant anniversary clock designed to run for a year and a day before stopping. It's lovely, with sapphires on the clock face and scintillac-embellished hands. It'll run another day, says your assistant, pointing out some coiled metal as though you could read its meaning. Then, click, stops. Can't be rewound. And look down here, inlaid inscription in the never-cold brass. If you ask me, someone sold their soul to the devils, and this clock is to measure how long they get to enjoy whatever they bought. Now have one time's outlandish artifact. And more terror. Everyone loves terror. I think I'll assist the man holding a broom. Both of you together still won't achieve anything, but maybe he'd feel better. Surprisingly soothing. In the long term, what you are doing won't make the slightest bit of difference. Every sodden bit of paper you fling out to sea will come back in a few hours. But for now you manage to clear a little patch of shore, a few feet on each side. The stones are bare, as they should be. Your companion turns his head towards the sound of your work and gives you a little nod. You've lost 5 times terror. You now have a newcomer, Nuncio, cultivating friendships with the postman. I could study the odd currents here. The water that brings flotsam ashore does not follow the usual patterns. On all sides. You make a complete circuit of the island. The whole shoreline is alike, all of it covered in debris, all of it washing steadily inland from every direction. Not the work of some directional current, it's more as though the whole Unterzee was draining into Nuncio. Except, of course, that force did not affect your ship when you came this way. It does not stop ships leaving. Evidently, it works only on the post. Back to the docks. You've finished here for now. Go to the Postman's Tavern, the Inky Blotter it's called. The sign doesn't look like much. Warmer inside than it looks. Faces turn in your direction, but no one seems surprised to have a new arrival on the island. The Inky Blotter, lit by 2 roaring fires, one at either end of the room. The bartender is in a postman's uniform, like almost all of the patrons. A noseless postal inspector called Blunt Thomas delivers the drinks, clears tables, stacks the firewood. Interesting. Many options. I'll ask why letters wash ashore here. Maybe one of them will know. The pull. It's the pull, they tell you. Dead letters are like so many iron filings drawn to Nuncio. See for yourself, suggests the hairless postwoman. Go down to the shore, collect up a bunch of what's washed there, and you'll feel it soon enough. Saves time for the rest of us, says another voice. Apparently beach scavenging is a civic duty hereabouts, like working in the dead letter office. I now have been invited to serve. Ask about the big statue in the center of the island. If there were a guidebook for visitors, it would have to be the first entry. Oh, that. It's all of us, isn't it? So the spirit of the island. Most of them don't seem troubled for more of an explanation than that. Though the hairless postwoman tells you it didn't always look like a fallen London postman at all. That he used to have a different face, and a more old-fashioned outfit. Ask why the local currency consists of rats. 2 strings of rats for a pint of ale, 3 strings for wine, 5 for the tolerable brandy under the bar. Scarcity is not an issue. The hairless postwoman at the end of the bar smiles mirthlessly, or maybe it's just the lack of eyebrows that does it. Long enough carrying things around, you get into the habit, she says. Then she tells you that if you stay out late enough, you'll see some of the postmen making a procession to the center of the island, stringing up rats around the statue like Yuletide decorations, in prayer to an ancient deity of this place. From the coughing and choking elsewhere in the pub, you'd guess this is a story they often tell to newcomers. Ask why the postman came here. You don't get the impression they're making a holiday of it. All unhappy postmen are alike. Their stories have different beginnings: boredom, frustration, a fellow who was overwhelmed by guilt after a misdelivery, but they always end the same way. Undeliverable letters and parcels accumulating over months and years. Attempts to ignore the undeliverable, to shove it into a desk or carry it in the bottom of the bag. An increasing preoccupation with these items. Finally, a decision to meet the compulsion, to go to Nuncio and be rid of the last of the remnants. The postmen do not bring the dead letters to Nuncio. The letters bring the postman. Ask to borrow a uniform. If you're to fit in here, you'll need one. Look, but not touch. They're polite, even apologetic about your request. You're welcome here, and welcome to take shifts at the dead letter office, but you cannot wear the uniform unless you are a postal employee back in fallen London. Regulations. Blunt Thomas lets you have a look at his uniform jacket at least. Neat stitching, gilded buttons, a thin but dignified circle of braid at the collar. Inside, a patch that goes over the heart stitched with 6 red letters. You can't read it, but it makes your eyes itch, and your scalp feel like burning. I'll try a shift at the dead letters office. There's a sign of a cancelled stamp over the door. Extensive tour. Blunt Thomas takes you around the office, a small collection room where those retrieving letters may state their business. A much larger set of back offices where the newly arrived letters and parcels are collected and sorted. A dank, briny smell that never goes away, presumably because so many of the parcels spent time in the water before they arrived here. In the back room is a machine ratted by a postal rat, a Ratus Faber in a pinstriped hat. It shovels sludge-damp letters into the machine's hopper, and they come out dried, cleaned, pressed, and sorted into slots by size and quality of paper. One has various possible occupations here. None could be described as fast-paced. I'll converse with the postal rat. Why doesn't it make a machine like this one back in London? Might lead to fewer dead letters in the first place. Regulations. Oh, no, that wouldn't be permitted at all. There are strict rules about the initial handling and sorting of post. An experimental machine might mangle the letters. It's only the dead material that is unimportant enough to be entrusted to a Ratus Faber. His voice isn't bitter, but he twists a coil so hard that it springs sideways out of the machine and pings off your shoe. Ask the postal rat for a key to the basements. There are doors in the dead letter office that you've never seen opened. Surely you can be trusted. No trouble at all. He's surprised by the request. Most postmen don't like it down there. No one ever asks for a key. But he'll cut you a new one. Just be careful in there and come out if you start to feel wrong. Open the back rooms. The key is warm in your pocket. Deep and deeper. You had expected a few shelves of supplies, more files of letters, a few years older. No, it is a pit, so deep that lantern light does not show the bottom. A spiral walkway descends along its wall, and that spiral opens wider as it goes, as if you were looking through the narrow end of a very large shell. Lining this wall are shelves and nooks unevenly sized. Some are a few inches square and contain single scrolls of papyrus. Others support crates bigger than coffins. They're made of woody fungus grown to meet requirements. There are no marks of carpentry or any of the postal rack's handiwork. 3 turns down the spiral, and you feel you can't breathe. Time to leave. You can come back later. Maybe. Tell the postal rat about your basement findings. Gives you something new to chat about. Troubled, but not surprised.
They say that's been there since long before we came. Before there were Londoners in the Neath. Before there was a dead letter office, there was someone else. And they built the last layer on top of what was there before, and so on.
When you press him a little further, he says,
I've been down there. Didn't like it much. But I wanted to test my machine. Thought if it could handle some of the very old dead letters, that would be a good sign, you know? Evidence the machine was in working order, good strong sorting categories, and so forth.
He pauses.
There's letters down there that set your hair on fire if you so much as look at them. See the bald patch on my left leg? That wasn't a machine accident, oh no. That singed right off as soon as I put my nose into one of them letters.
You've gained a tale of terror, an extraordinary implication. I could descend into the basement with flame. Some candles, and maybe a flare. Spiral on spiral on spiral. The descent is long and slow. You count the turns at first, but the time comes when you can't see the square of light from the door above, and can't mark how far you've come around the spiral. You exhaust one candle after another. At the end, you come to a place where the ramp opens onto a bowl-shaped floor. The cavern must be hundreds of feet wide here. You light your flare, but even that does not show the cavern walls. The floor is carpeted with, at first you think it's gravel, but no, it's broken shards of clay and stone, all scribbled over in words too old to read. At the center of the space is a needle of deep black rock, glossy as resin, glittering with ice, inscribed with 3 arcane sigils that hurt to look at. You feel a meaning in their presence, a prohibition or a commandment. That all things must come to their destined place, that what cannot be delivered immediately must be saved against a future date, that a message that goes unheard is a tragedy, that the signal must be carried no matter how far, no matter through what darkness, no matter whether the sender still lives nor whether the recipient can even read the language of the writing. The inscription resolves itself and is known to you. No word lost. You now have a searing enigma. Climbing out. The climb out is slow and takes a long time. Could you possibly have come down this far? Surely not. Your breath grows ragged and your legs cramp. Sit down but a moment. The rest of the spiral will still be there after you've got your breath. Visions? Dreams? You relax against a shelf. It isn't comfortable at all, as the edge of a metal box is prodding you between the spine and the shoulder blade, and somewhere off to your right is a sound like hoarse breathing. It doesn't matter. In the dimness you see, or remember, or dream, a silver tree growing in a courtyard. The reverie lasts only a few heartbeats before you're properly awake again. Ascend. There's no way out but up. At the surface, The dead letter office is still here, its machine still working, its baskets still filling with missed invitations and misplaced wills. Shouldn't it have been blasted away, destroyed by the force of what lies beneath? Tell the postal rat what you saw below. Maybe he will be curious. Without name. You start to explain, but your language doesn't have the right words to express it. The weight of the delivery commandment, the sacred necessity for every word to reach its destination, and the countless individual miscarriages of meaning from one entity to another which have occurred throughout the history and are still occurring, to the detriment of the whole universe. He holds up a paw.
Not going to understand it, no matter how much you explain, he says. And I'm glad, as if I did understand it, I'd be likely to run mad working here what as I do.
After a moment he adds,
Likely you'll forget. At least forget some of it. After all, you never wore the uniform.
Then he points out where your hair has singed at the temples, and he gives you an ointment to keep in a drawer. End your shift. Return to the docks. You are finished here for now. Whew, perhaps not. There's a little room for more fuel and supplies. No reason why not. Might as well speak to the first officer while I'm here that I don't have up. Speak with your navigator.
Yes, now is good, thank you.
Invite him to dine with you. He has an admirable appetite for so slight a fellow. Forgetfulness. Seconds, then thirds, disappear in a small, hasty morsels. He's nervous and not a gifted conversationalist. You do your best to plug the silence. When you ask about his past, he winces. I can't say, my lord, this... He taps the livid sigil on his temple, which twitches like a scorpion sting. Has burned away my memories. I recall I have a brother, but not his name or where he is. I remember the names of the ships I've served on, the Implicit, the Bonnie Swan, but not their crew. How did he come by the sigil? He clutches his head. I don't know. Thinking about it is like fire in my skull. He grits his teeth. Someone must have hated me very much to curse me with it, but I can't even remember my enemy. Speak to him again to advance his story. Captain, my sleep is riddled with dreams, my lord. Dreams of bells and candles. A destination. He paces the deck. I see a lonely house lit by tallow and wick. A bell is ringing. It rings now, do you hear it? He scratches at his sigil, which has begun to bleed. Do you know this place, Captain? Can I plot a course? A place of candles and bells. The Chapel of Lights, a northern church where no sin is too terrible. Your sigil-ridden navigator wants to go to the Chapel of Lights to find his lost memories. All right. I think it's about time for another break before we wander back out to sea. So, thanks for joining us as we explored the deep depths between and beneath.